agenda.
Some of them are. Why does the Environmental Protection Agency have 350
Have you identified them?
If I could interject, because I did actually work for the federal government, and I worked with a number, as did the chairman, and I worked with a number of those we call them civil servants in the United States government, people who are not political appointees, and they have the institutional knowledge.
If only they acted that way.
Well, I think Alicia has a question along those lines about one of the policy priorities that you all have identified in Project 2025.
I actually, Dr. Roberts, have a question about this upcoming election. Is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 presidential election?
I believe that Dr. Roberts can't hear. So Alicia just asked, is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 election, regardless of the outcome?
Yes, if there isn't massive fraud like there was in 2020.
What does that mean?
If there isn't massive fraud.
Do you believe that there was not massive fraud?
There was massive fraud. We have an election fraud database that has documented that over years. By the way, the Heritage Foundation has been concerned about election integrity for decades, not just about 2020. We've been documenting this problem for a very long time. And if one of the
I believe, according to the Heritage Foundation, sir, by your count, Heritage Foundation has done an investigation, and according to your count, there have been 1,513 proven instances of voter fraud across the United States since 1982.
Yeah, that's probably
1,513.
Because they're very hard to document. And the Democrat Party is very good at fraud. The key thing here, which I think we would both agree on, is that we aspire at the Heritage Foundation to seeing a poll after this election where every American believes their vote was counted. I care as deeply about someone on the political left with whom I disagree saying that they have confidence in the outcome of the election. It seems, rather than turn this into a partisan conversation, which you do a good job of at Msnbc, we might say we aspire to something more noble, which is that every American believes their vote counts.
I mean, I don't think it's partisan to ask if you will accept the results of the election. Alicia, I don't know if can you hear Alicia now?
Yeah,
Alicia, do you have another question?
I can hear. I do have another question. I'm specifically interested as it relates, Dr. Roberts, to the deportation of immigrants in this country, just understanding sort of how it is going to work. When we talk about folks on the interior, how you see a future administration utilizing the National Guard, ICE, police forces to deport something like 11 million people.
Could you hear? Yeah. So she is asking about immigration and how you see immigration, how in this plan, how you talk about using like the National Guard to deport individuals. Like, what is the, Alicia, and do tell me if I am adequately
people on the interior specifically.
People on the interior specifically, not people in the border, people within this country.
Well, first of all, we need to close the border. And secondly, we need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America, because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. It's imperative that we send those people back, invite them back to come through the legal system. We love immigrants at Heritage, but we also love the rule of law.
So how do you plan to carry that out?
Well,
are you talking about going door to door? Because that's what I mean, I could read from the plan, but I think
the first thing is that there's going to be a lot of self-deportation. The interesting thing, as you no doubt know, is that simply talking about this and beginning to implement a plan, and President Trump deserves a lot of credit for talking about this, causes people to say, I don't want to run the risk of being arrested for doing something illegal. But secondly, there are great plans using the Department of Homeland Security to return these people back to south of the border. The great thing is, even a majority of people on the political left agree with this because they see the damage that this has done.
Well, before we go,
I think we want to take a couple more minutes, and so I know we're being told to wrap, but we want to take a few more minutes.
I'll stay as long as you want.
No. Just ask you real quick. So what do these people do? What are they doing now?
Which people?
The folks, the 11 million, 20 million, whatever you want to deport.
A lot of them are committing crimes like murdering the 12-year-old girl in Houston. In fact,
so that's
we're very
one.
concerned
That's
about
one
that.
Out of 11 million. What is?
We can take the remaining time of the segment, and I can give you a lot of examples.
In Texas, undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Undocumented immigrants, and according to a survey, University of California Riverside study, 33% less likely to be in prison as of 2021. I'm just giving the numbers.
Well, what do you tell the parents of those people, those young girls who were killed? This is absurdity. The preponderance of these people, Michael, are male.
But what is the difference between an illegal immigrant who unfortunately engages in that activity?
And we don't like that. I want to be clear. We don't use the term illegal. So undocumented individuals.
That's sweet. They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals versus anyone else who commits the same crime. Well, I mean, so what you're saying is because you have this instance of individuals behaving badly, that's a reflection of every individual in that community, and that's just not the case.
No,
is it?
What is the case is that because the preponderance.
I mean, what percentage of those people, the 11 million that you want to deport?
I'll answer your question.
I just want to clarify my question. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. What percentage of those individuals that you want to get rid of, move out of the country, actually commit crimes?
Our analysis in Texas, Georgia, and New York shows that a preponderance of the illegals who have come in
I don't know what's that number.
Are unattached male, and there are unattached males, and the disproportionate number of them are people who are not even making any attempt to be legal.
But what is that number?
Obviously,
are you
a large number
10
of them
out of 1,000, or are you talking? I'm just trying to get.
Well, I just would say, and if Alicia were sitting here and you could hear her, she would say that you are weaponizing a horrific murder to smear 11 million people.
That is a laughable assertion. What Joe Biden is doing is weaponizing the entire government.
Before we let you go,
American,
Dr. Roberts, I do want to ask you about abortion because it is an issue that is at the top of mind for folks all over this country right now, waiting on a case from the Supreme Court, EMTALA. In Louisiana, in places all over this country, abortion care is unavailable to people that may need it. You and the organization in this plan talks about changing the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Life. Do you think that women in America should be able to get an abortion if that is what their doctor says they need?
Abortion's not health care. I find it really interesting, if not worse, that you wouldn't support the change of the department name to the Department of Life. I thought we were all in support of life. We believe eminently in women's rights, and particularly women's rights in the womb. And so the real question that you should be asking
I just want to know, if I may, though, because I do ask the questions here. Why aren't we talking about the people
who are supporting legislation that abortion can happen until 3 days after the person's born? This is an absurd framing by this network.
That is an absurd assertion. As a person with an actual womb, I'm telling you that does not happen.
So but let me just back up. Legislators in California, Virginia, New York, who
Dr.
actually
Roberts,
filed those bills.
Does Heritage and Project 2025 believe that a woman should be able to have an abortion if her doctor says that she needs one? It's a yes or no question.
Abortion is not health care.
So
abortion is the murder of a human being.
All right. Well, I disagree thoroughly with Dr. Kevin Roberts, but I am so glad that you were here, and we are so disappointed you couldn't hear Alicia. So that means you got to come back, Dr. Roberts. You got to come back, okay?
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back, folks.